We've got some siding. This is the west facing area here of the house. It's unsightly, it's blistering and peeling. And then when you come down here, you have a hardwood deck. Looks like it is Cumaru. Could possibly be Ipe. It's hard to tell because it's got this sort of lacquered type coating on here. And then you've got the siding where it's unsightly and it's yellowed and turned pale and white, and then it's peeling on top here. So this siding is west facing. It's taking an enormous amount of sun. I can feel it on my face just being here on the rooftop, and this is why it's blistering and peeling. You have a cool morning, maybe with some morning condensation, and then it heats up super quick to a, I don't know, 80, 90 degree day. It doesn't get extremely hot here because we're close to the ocean and Santa Monica area and stuff like that, but it does heat up, especially on a rooftop, and it's just an enormous amount of pressure that any sort of protective coating is meant to deal with. And as you can see here, it just doesn't hold up. It is really, really bad. And this stuff is floating around, going in other people's pools, in people's faces and stuff like that. It's really, really bad. It's not a maintainable coating. We're gonna go ahead and fix this and make it look beautiful again. You get down to the bottom, it's peeling at these areas right here, which are the weak spot because they don't get a lot of the protective coating when you use a film finish. It's typical of the edges not getting enough protection. And yeah, you still have a little bit of color here, but if you see it in person, it is really unsightly and it's not the natural color of the wood. And then come down here to the deck, and it looks really, really bad. I mean, that is terrible and unsightly, and it is blistering and peeling. And as the homeowner said, it's flying in his pool. It's also out here while they're dining, and it's just a recipe for disaster. Furthermore, coating with some sort of a film like an indoor finish is slippery when it's wet, so it's unsafe. So you never want to do that. It's not a maintainable coating. It looks really bad, and as you can see, it doesn't last. Okay, so another important subject to touch on is scarring of the wood. And by scarring, I'm talking about these areas that are now exposed to sun and moisture. So take this area here for instance. So you've got a weak spot here at the corner. It doesn't get as much of this film forming finish as, say, this area, the flat surface, which is natural. And it starts to blister and peel, and it's a recipe for disaster, as you could see here, and you could see all throughout the deck. Now, coming back to this area here has been exposed to water and sun and has been scorched, let's say, for the past year. But this area here still has the protective coating and it's somewhat intact, even though it looks atrocious. But this particular area here has been hit by the sun, hit by the elements for 365 days of the year. Now, it's weathered at a different rate, hopefully we can both agree, than this area, and this is completely raw. Now, when we go to strip this off and we go to sand it, this area here, you might see an outline here because it's been fully exposed, where this particular area hasn't been fully exposed. But with our sanding technique and our bleaching and brightening, hopefully we can go ahead and bring this back to pristine condition. And this particular area here looks somewhat okay, except for the black mold and mildew that you see is attacking here on the top, which is really bad. It's underneath the coating, so you can't just go back and wipe it off. You have to take it off, the coating that is. And you've got some color, some decent color. It looks okay. I guess it would be somewhat acceptable to some. It's not acceptable to this homeowner, and it's not acceptable to us, because you can't just go back to the other areas of the home and touch up because it's blistering and peeling. So even when something is not fully exposed like this, it still has this yellow color, which is not the natural color, and it's still getting the black mold and mildew. So even though it looks somewhat okay, it's not. On the back side here, we decided to use some stripper remover and get off as much as we possibly could by stripping. And you know, the stripping is really messy. It's a vertical surface. Even if we just put a little bit on, you know, you've got these runs and things like that, and then the sun can hit it and it can actually discolor the wood if you don't know what you're doing or you leave it on for too long. You know, we use the remover because we're trying to grind it off like we did for the other sides of the house, and it just was not grinding off back here. Who knows what had happened when the sort of blow and go finishing pro came out here and put the varnish on. Maybe they started with this area and they put 20 coats on, you know, who knows. And then the further they got around the house, you know, maybe they put 1 or 2 coats. But anyway, it was really difficult to remove by just grinding it off and sanding, so we had to strip it, and now the guys are sanding and it's coming out really beautiful. I just wanted to point out that, you know, using remover on a vertical surface is something you got to be really knowledgeable about, cautious in terms of safety and how dirty it becomes. So you really have to contain it and make sure you know what you're doing so you don't make your job harder or have any sort of safety issues or anything like that. And on this, we used our drum sander. A drum sander, for those of you that don't know, is basically a belt sander that you push and is for floors and decks and things like that. Now, the drum sander is perfectly flat, but as you can see here, the boards aren't, because you've got a flat portion of the board here, and then, you know, it probably gets depressed right here a little bit, or this board is higher than this board, so the drum sander misses these areas. But as you can see, it took most of it off. It took a lot of it off, which is really good. So we come back in and we fine tune with our fest tool way down there and our other sanders and things like that. So I had briefly touched on that there are areas like this, you know, you've got the varnished coating here, and areas like this right here is a sore or a scar, and water has been trapped underneath that. Sun has hit this area, but it hasn't necessarily hit, say, like this area here. I guess this is probably better. It's still protected, and even though it looks terrible, but these areas right here have been getting water trapped underneath, and who knows for how long they've been getting trapped underneath. So it's going to leave a scar because water's been trapped in between the protective coating and the wood. And what I talked about earlier is that it may leave a mark and it may not be able to be removed. And right here you can see some results where we use the drum sander, but you still have the evidence here of this black scarring here, where water got trapped underneath, and we're not going to be able to to remove it. Now, I also wanted to point out, some people ask, well, can't you just continue to sand? Well, you can't, because it's in the wood, and you can't keep sanding in the same spot because you're going to discolor the wood by heating it up. You're actually burnishing it, you're heating it up, you're going to discolor the wood, and it's going to probably look worse. Now, after we sand this as much as we possibly can and get it down to, you know, as close to bare wood or as perfect rather as possible, we'll go ahead and bleach it. Now, bleaching or brightening is going to help with this black sort of scarring issue that we have here. It won't alleviate it altogether, but it definitely will make it better, because once we put on the protective coating, the protective oil is going to magnify the natural grain and color, and even any imperfections like the scarring, it's going to magnify it, unfortunately. But hopefully with our technique, we're going to go ahead and minimize that, and we're going to get it to beautiful and pristine and an amazing look. So we are now applying the brightener after the fully refinished wood technique, and we blew off the surfaces, and now we're applying the brightener, yes, with a towel. And the reason why we're doing this, and we've done it in other videos and we keep getting questions about it, not a ton of them, but a few, why we do this is to contain the runoff. You're on a vertical surface, you've got a roof here, you've got solar panels here, and then you have everything underneath. You have all of the other siding, you've got plants, you've got windows, you have the other areas of the house, and if you go buck wild and use a pump sprayer and then hose everything off, you're going to have this run down the side of the trim, you're going to have it run down the side of the paint, and you're going to have runoff into the neighbor's yard or God knows where, down the street, and we just don't want a problem. So especially here in Southern California, people are very conscious of runoff. I don't care what it is, even if you're just power washing, that's the way it is here, and so we have to kind of do our best to contain. So Ernie's wiping on the brightener right here for demonstration purposes, and we've got it fully contained. You don't want it to dry fully. So now what he's going to do is he's going to take a bucket with just water, and he's going to wipe off and neutralize the brightener. Here he goes with dipping the new rag with just water inside the bucket, again before it dries. And we are wiping off some of the brightener, bleach, and neutralizing it. Now, you can do this 2 and 3 times until you feel that it's neutralized. So you don't have to just do it once, even though I perceive that one time is enough, especially if you're using a super wet rag to neutralize the brightener. This is again a great technique so you do not have runoff onto these solar panels, electrical, and everything around where you're working. There's no reason why you need to use a pump sprayer or a weenie roller or any sort of other technique. This is just as good, and we've been doing it for 20 years. So we are applying the sealer here for demonstration purposes in a small contained spot, and we brush on our finishes, especially these oil penetrating finishes, because we get to work it in the wood, we get to get it in between, you know, the cracks here, and really saturate the wood as much as we possibly can. And we're up close, we're looking it in and driving it into the wood as much as we possibly can. We start from the top down always, and you know, I've seen online and I've seen different people, you know, talk about putting these protective coatings on the siding, and they're using pump sprayers, they're using all types of weird methods, and there's nothing that is going to replicate hand brushing. I am sorry, when it comes to these oil penetrating products, nothing is going to replicate it. You can use a weenie roller and you can back brush and things like that, and that's fine, you're still using a brush, but nothing is going to replicate the long, old school, hard way of doing this type of work. Nothing. And this is the way we do it. It's the long way, it's the hard way, but it's the right way and it's the best way. Work it into the wood. Get it to saturate as much as it possibly can. And with these oil penetrating sealer finishes, just as it says on the can, doesn't matter what product it is, almost 100% of the time it's a one coat system. You're saturating the wood. You can think of the wood as a sort of hard, dry sponge. And there's only so much of the protective coating that the wood is going to be able to accept. So putting multiple coats like what was on there before, like varnish, obviously, right? It didn't work, it looked unsightly, it changed color, and then now we're spending a week or so grinding off that coating that did not work, that did not offer any extra protection. So now we're applying a maintainable, natural coating. Natural to the look, natural to the color, and most importantly, it's maintainable moving forward. Now the protective coating is designed to gradually fade and dissipate over time with exposure to the sun and the elements and rain. Good thing it has a soffit, so it protects a little bit of it. At least it protects the rain from running down the siding, which will cause watermarks and will cause the sealer to weather and dissipate faster. So the good thing is that it has a soffit over pretty much all of the house. It's covered in certain areas, which is really, really good. But the sealer is designed to gradually fade and dissipate over time. We've decided to use Mesmer's UV Plus Cedar Tone. And this is what the client chose and the look that they're going for. We want to keep it as close to natural as possible. So the Cedar Tone is even more natural than the natural because it has kind of a caramel pigment rather than some sort of reddish pigments that sometimes can be in the quote-unquote natural finishes. So Mesmer's is a great product. They have great customer service, great product knowledge if you call them for any technical issues, which is why we love using their products. And they perform. You know, I can't sell you that it's bulletproof, but they are maintainable, they look great, they perform well, they're readily available, and we love their customer service and we love their support. Okay, so now we're demonstrating wiping off the excess coating. There's only so much of the protective coating that the wood is going to accept. We allow it to sit for the appropriate amount of time. Now I know these manufacturers say leave it on for 2 hours, 3 hours, 20 minutes, you know, whatever, but Mother Nature's gonna dictate how fast we, you know, kind of wipe off the wood. You know, you've got different temperatures in Southern California here where we're located. You've got direct sunlight that, you know, obviously this side is in, even though we're here bright and early in the morning. It's gonna heat up and it's gonna make this, you know, sealer flash and dry. So if you wait the 2 hours, you're gonna go back and it's gonna be gummy and sticky and it's not gonna be able to be wiped off and you're gonna have an uneven appearance and it's gonna look really, really bad. So you wipe off the excess. There's only so much of the sealer the wood can accept, and then you get a beautiful natural look. Okay guys, so we finished up the deck and we stripped it, we sanded it intensely, we cleaned and brightened and bleached it, and we were talking about some of the scarring not coming out. I don't know if the camera can really pick up on it. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful, but when you examine it under sort of a microscope, you can see some of these dark areas, and I guess this is a good area over here to take a look at. I don't know if you can see it, but over here it's really dark and it's really black. How about this area here? This is the scarring I was talking about. And unfortunately, we weren't able to remove all of it, and you can't really see it. I mean, if a guest walked in and, you know, dined and entertained back here, there's no way they would say, hey, what's that on your deck? But we noticed, the customer only noticed because we point this stuff out. We're perfectionists. We want to give the highest quality we possibly can. But as you can see, the results are absolutely amazing, and it turned out really well. I'm really happy. Just to do a brief recap, we stripped off the coating that was failing and that had turned white and that was blistering and peeling. It looked like it was some sort of water-based coating, but in any case it was a film forming finish that was blistering and peeling and looking unsightly. So we stripped that off, we sanded, we did a strip sand combination according to what we felt was the best approach. Got it down to bare wood, cleaned and brightened, and then we applied the oil-based penetrating sealer finish. The customer is so happy that their beautiful wood has been revived. I wanted to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Go ahead and check teakmaster.com. Lots of before and afters, videos just like this. Go ahead and click the like button, go ahead and follow us, and go ahead and comment if you have any other techniques that you guys know of, or any questions about what we did, or if you think that we could do this better, or anything like that. Go ahead and comment. We'll be sure to go ahead and get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Tim Gilliam with Teak Master signing out.